All right, guys. So as always, I've got another treat for you. I've got a good friend of mine, Mr. Daniel Hardinsburgger. How would you like to take more listings? How would you like to go from not taking a single listing to becoming a listing powerhouse in your market? Daniel, how you doing, my friend?
Good. Chris, you're my original friend in this business.
Original friend. That's a good title I like to have. Now, me and Daniel are both wearing our headsets for a very specific reason. Him, just because that's what he, lives, breathes, sleeps, showers with. But me, we're going with the theme of the podcast here today. But just to give you a hook to pay attention. So, Daniel and I both started kind of in the real estate investment business way back when. When did you get into the real estate sales side of the business?
When I became licensed in 2017, so it was like a little over 3 years after we met.
Yeah. So 2017, he got in the business, got really serious about a sales business. Last year in 2024, 56 closings for a little over $18 million of sales volume, 60-40 split, 60% with sellers. This year to date, as of April the 7th, 2025, this gentleman has 26 transactions closed and pending. He's got 4 active listings, 4 coming soon listings, and then 4 pre-signed listings, which we can break down that maybe. So basically, he's got 12 more potential commission checks on the street. And so far this year, closed and pending, he's at $260,000 GCI. Daniel, that's pretty impressive, my friend. And I'm super proud of you as somebody that's watched you kind of start from newbie to where you're at now. So tip of the hat to you, my friend.
Thank you.
Daniel, so what these good folks don't know is you are a social media phenom. You've gotten all your business dancing on TikTok and
Yeah.
showing your curves. Now,
Yeah.
Daniel, how do you generate business?
Well, just like you said. Um, no, I just call people. I call a lot of people, as many as I can. I wish I could call more.
So, okay, so it's not social media, it's not postcards, it's not YouTube, it's not Instagram, which nothing is wrong with any of those. There's no wrong way to generate a lead. But if you're somebody like myself, like Daniel, who I don't want to put this on you, I'm a little bit of a knuckle dragger. Like I'm not the most intelligent human being in the world,
You're
but it seems
you're
fairly
very smart.
well, thank you. But it seems fairly straightforward to just pick up the phone, call people, and more or less ask them if they've had any thoughts of selling it. Am I oversimplifying this?
No, I think it's Mike Ferry says it's real estate. It's not that hard. It's just not that easy. So that no matter what your skill level is, no matter where you're at in the business, if you just started or you're a seasoned grizzled veteran, like the more contacts you make, the more listing appointments you're going to set, the more you're going to sell. I mean, it's just basic law of averages.
Now, when you say, all right, so I'm going to break this down for anybody that's a newbie out there. So when you say a contact, how do you define a contact?
I define a contact as someone I've had a real estate conversation with where I've asked for their business.
Okay, so you're go
when
ahead.
do you plan on moving? I'm asking for their business.
Okay, so you're having a real estate conversation with a decision-making adult, and if you're looking to take more listing business, that decision-making adult should probably be somebody that owns a home, correct?
It really should be.
Right, like you're if you're looking to get a listing, selling them a listing and then listing it is probably not the quickest sales cycle.
I mean, I think having a direct conversation is a lot better than posting. Look, man, it's like you just said a minute ago. There's nothing wrong with posting on the gram or the book face, or the snappy chat or whatever. But to me, it's a passive activity. So I want to have direct conversations, because if people aren't looking for you and you're not looking for them, how are you going to find each other? So I just, the reason people don't do what you and I do, Chris, is because they just can't take the human emotion that it can be inherent with rejection. and it just doesn't bother me that much. I'm going to make 9,300 contacts this year. I'm going to take 60 to 70 listings, and that means 9,200 plus are going to say no, and that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So let's step back. I want to break down that math real quick, but let's take a step backwards. Why calling? Why not do other things? Like, why do outbound phone calls as opposed to any other lead generation or business generation activity that one could do?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So one, if I'm making outbound calls, like, so say I've listed a property, I'm calling around the neighborhood in my listing. One, I'm asking the neighborhood who they know who might be looking to move to the area. So I'm doing my job for the seller. Simultaneously, it helps me and the seller to have more listings to sell in the neighborhood, because not every buyer is going to be a fit for one property, so I can direct them to the other. And it's just, when you call people, you have the power to select who you're calling. So that inherently, you're able to choose where you want to work. So people get into this line of work, they say, because they want to create their own schedule and they love talking to people, and then they usually do neither. But it allows me to, like, if I want it, like, I listed a lot south of the river last year. That's just where things took me. And that's fine, because, like, I used to travel a lot further for a lot less money. And now I can, like, get paid thousands of dollars for making a 30-40 minute trip. It's fine. But I would like to list more. I live in Western Henrico. I'd love to list more closer to home. Doesn't mean I won't take all the listings in Chester and Colonial Heights and Petersburg or wherever, but I'd like to list around there too. So you're able to target search where you want to do business. Like, I know you focus a lot in the West End. I see.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you know what I like about phone calls is I'm putting myself in the driver's seat of my success. Like, I'm
Right.
control. I'm not waiting for the market to come find me, or I'm not waiting for marketing to work and create inbound. I am going out and aggressively getting in front of people. All right. So we wrote that down. So you made a comment. You said, I'm going to have 9,200 conversations or 9,200 contacts this year, and that means I'm going to take 60 to 70 listings. How did we arrive at that? And kind of break down that math for me, and explain to me how people can literally break down the math of whatever goal that they want to achieve in this business.
Yeah. So I looked at it. I sat down and I always make my business plan towards the end of the year. And this year, I am so in sync with the calendar more than any year previously. It used to be when I'd make a business plan when I want to work. It's almost like I was doing it as an exercise to placate my coach, because he wanted me to do it. This year, I was like, really wanted to strategize when I'm working, when I'm not working. And then from there, when I established the days I was working, if I'm working on a Monday through Friday, the goal is 40 contacts minimum. Okay.
Per
If I'm
day.
working, yes, per day. And then
So hold on.
Sure.
Let me stop this for somebody. So you're having 40 real estate conversations with 40 different people every single day.
Yes.
Does that mean you're making 40 phone calls and every single person is picking up and you're having that conversation? Or how many phone calls would you say, and I know it varies based on lead source, but on an average day to get to those 40 conversations?
Oh my gosh. Why? I used to actually track that, because there are certain dialers that will track the number of calls you've made. But I have this one dialer now. I'm sure we're not doing an endorsement of them or anything, but, like, it's a multi-line dialer, and it doesn't show me the number of calls. So, but it has a good pickup rate. But so I gave up tracking calls, because I don't think there's a lot of value in it. Because if I call my database, I might make 40 phone calls.
Well, let me ask you this. How many hours does it take you, generally speaking, to get to 40 contacts?
Well, I would say 4.
Okay.
Sometimes less. I mean, because there are days like that. There's days you might just have a better pickup rate, but shorter conversations. There might be a day where you don't have a good pickup rate at all, or you may have a day where you have like 3 really good conversations, but maybe they're longer than 5 minutes.
Okay. So you're spending, but roughly 4 hours per day on the phone, which
Yeah.
we're going to lose a lot of people here, and that doesn't sound that sexy. But
No.
Daniel, tell me again, what was your close and pending GCI for the year again so far?
26 closed and pended right now, and 260 and change GCI.
260. And with you doing phone calls, you probably don't have a huge marketing budget. There's not a lot of overhead expense, right? I would
Just
imagine.
just for the dialers that I choose to get, but it costs. If I didn't have the dialers, Chris, I would still be finding another way to prospect. I would get the white pages. I would door knock. All those things are free.
Yeah, yeah. But it's safe to say you're of that 260, you're probably clearing at least 200, I would imagine.
To
200,000.
yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm
So
way past my cap, so I'm good.
yeah, so if we just like let's say he just was able to continue this for the next 8 months of the year. So you would be at $600,000 gross commission income, probably take home. So, like, if you're somebody that's on the struggle bus with, man, I don't want to make phone calls for 4 hours a day. If I told you, hey, there was a job that you could go work that you had to sit there and you had to make phone calls 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, but you were going to make 600 grand a year, most people would say, you know what, I'll do that job. Like, sign me up, right?
Yeah.
So I just anyway, I'm getting
It's
off on a tangent,
it's
but
well, no, it's a good tangent to get on, Chris, because here's why most people don't do it. And I'm grateful they don't, more for us. But the the reason why is because I didn't just come out of the gate like these weren't my first quarter numbers even last year, or or especially 2 or 3 years ago, or when I got into coaching. It's a process, and and here's the great thing: not everyone has the same trajectory. Just because it took me 5 years to get to where I'm at now from the time I started coaching doesn't mean a first year agent couldn't be where I'm at now in year 3. That's the great thing about this business. And we all have a different path, but at the same time, like, I look at it like going to the gym. Like, a lot of people, they make a New Year's resolution: I'm going to get fit. They go for 6 weeks, 2 months, and then they fall back into their old habits because they're not jacked or they're not as trim as they want to be after that time. It is slow and steady progress, but the more you put into this business, the more you get out of it, and then some, I find. But
yeah.
I put time in. Like, it's not just making the calls. I have an hour dedicated each day to role play. I do role play at 7:30 a.m. and then I do an objection handler role play at 11:30. And because if I know there's no new objections in this business, so if I know how to handle them, then I'm going to convert more calls to appointments. I'm going to convert more appointments to listings taken and thus sales.
Yeah, so you're doing a high volume of activity, right? Which even if you suck, if you do a high enough volume of activity,
Right.
even if your conversion ratios are terrible, like you have a 1% conversion ratio, you can just spend an enormous amount of time making phone calls, and at a 1% conversion ratio, you're going to get something.
Right.
But Daniel's also smarter in the fact that not only is he doing a massive volume of the activity, but he's also working on a skill set, and therefore he's upping his conversion percentage to where he's continuously getting more and more out of the same volume of activity, which is brilliant, my friend. So you touched on it a little bit, but who are you calling? So people say, all right, I'm going to do the thing, but I don't know who to call. Who do we call on a daily basis or a weekly basis?
So we call, I would say on a weekly basis, we're going to be calling people who have declared they're selling, or at least at one point were. And that's going to be expireds, whether they're more recent or from the past, but they still own the home. We're going to call for sale by owners, because they are declaring we want to sell. Now, how realistic they are may be another story. But you and I both converted those into listings and thus, commission checks. And then, the clients you get over time, you want to stay in front of them. Statistically, I think it's like 92% of people say they would have hired their previous agent, but they don't do that 92% of the time because their agent didn't stay in front of them. So if you offer a great service to somebody and then stay in front of them and continue to offer them value periodically, like they're going to remember you when it's time to refer to their friends or family, or they want to sell.
Yeah. Okay. So we got expireds, we got for sale owners, we got past clients. I would imagine sphere of influence is in there.
Yeah. And then calling around circle prospecting, as the kids call it today. But there's two types. There's more targeted, where you're calling around your new listings or your recently sold listings, or by the way, buyer sales, because the odds are the other listing agent's not going to call around the neighborhood. So I'll call and say, hey, I just sold in your neighborhood. It's true, I did. I just represent the buyer.
Yep.
And then circle prospecting is kind of what I was alluding to earlier. Hey, I'd really like to have a listing in this neighborhood. I'll have my assistant pull the list of phone numbers, and we'll upload them into the dialer, and I'll call away.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the coolest thing about circle dialing, it doesn't even need to be your listing. Like I called around other people's recent sales, because once again, like Daniel said, most agents are not going to do this. So even if it's an amazing result and they're going to send a postcard, that postcard's probably going to take 2 weeks to a week to get there. So
Right.
I'm going to call like the next day after an incredible sale closes, or you represented the buyer, or let's say you had a buyer that missed out on a listing, right? Calling through the neighborhood and saying, hey, I don't know if you know this, but your neighbors just sold. We didn't get the property under contract. We were one of 6 offers. It turns out we offered $25,000 over asking and we still didn't get it. Hey, by the way, do you or anybody or any of your neighbors that you're aware of have had any thoughts of selling? Right?
Yeah.
Like there's a million excuses why you can reach out to somebody and ask the question, basically, have you had any thoughts of selling?
Or how about this? It's just as simple as like, hey, 5 homes sold in your neighborhood last year. What are your plans to sell this year? Like it's an open-ended question. You're asking if they have any interest in potentially using your services.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be that hard.
And you don't need a listing. Like if you're somebody saying, well, I don't have listings, you don't need listings. Danny, I'll tell you, one of our favorite things to do now is we'll get a buyer. We'll find out what neighborhood they want to buy in. We'll pull the neighborhood list and say, hey, by the way, we're looking for a buyer. Do you or any, like, have you had any thoughts of selling? Do you know if your neighbors have had any thoughts of selling? It's just simply asking the question. And by golly, you turn over enough rocks, you're eventually going to find gold.
Yeah, exactly. And hey, how great is that too, Chris, that you do that for your client, your buyer client? Because how many agents do anything more than even set up a search, right? And then wait for them to give them a cue. You can go to your buyer and say, hey, I called, every house in the neighborhood, or attempted to today. I made 20 contacts in the neighborhood. I do have a potential lead, or just the fact that you did the activity.
Yeah.
That stuff goes a long way.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you what's even cooler is sometimes you find the house, but sometimes you find somebody that is going to sell later, or it's a house that doesn't work for them. So you've literally just picked up a listing working with a buyer. So anyway, okay. So give the folks real quick, what are some tools? What are some subscriptions? What are some pieces of equipment they need if they're going to get really heavy into calling?
I mean, there's several different dialers out there, right? The headset,
handy dandy headset.
Yeah. Well, the truth is, some of these dialers, like, I don't know we've never actually discussed which ones you use or I use, but like, some of them I can call from my phone and just have it on speakerphone and dial that way. I mean, it's there. You don't even need this. I do it for a specific dialer, but you don't even have to have this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say you eventually want to upgrade to a nice quality headset just so you've
Mhm.
got hands free.
Yes.
It's helpful to have a second monitor where you can have your like your dialer on one and then like the MLS pulled up. And then I've always used Mojo Dialer. We use Vulcan for data, and then we use
Right.
Property Radar for data as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I use Vulcan for data. I'll supplement it with forewarn. Like if you see you have if there's a couple, you know, Bill and Judy Smith, and you see one cell number, odds are both folks have a cell number. One's missing. You can use forewarn and figure that out if you're having trouble, getting through
Interesting.
to them on one of the lines. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Awesome. All right. So let's transition real quick. So we're making a bunch of phone calls, we're having a bunch of conversations, we're doing the work, and now we're starting to book some appointments. Talk to me about listing pre-qualification. What is it? Why do you do it? What does it look like? And what are you looking? What are you looking to get from a pre-qualification call?
Yeah, great question. So the reason you pre-qualify first and foremost is so you can be prepared for the meeting. So the more information you know about their situation, how much they owe on the home, where they're going next, how soon they have to be there, what does the home look like, all those things matter so you can put together a proper pre-listing packet, because you and I both do that. So then how many other agents or competitors are just showing up to the property? Maybe they've pulled some comps, and then from there they're just winging it. Whereas we have a proper pre-listing package, and then we have a professional presentation on top of it. So that's in a nutshell.
So, say it's in layman's terms. So you're setting the appointment, but then before the appointment, either on that setting call or maybe a day or two or the morning of, you're calling them, confirming the appointment. You've got some pre-qualification questions that you're asking them to gain some intel, so you can make a quality, have a quality appointment,
Right.
and potentially maybe smoke out that this isn't a good appointment to keep.
Oh, for sure. I mean, when I see you, say we're going to list the home next week, how much do you want to sell for? If they say at this price that's just wild, I mean, it could be an indicator. What I do, when I set the appointment, unless they just cannot do it, I'm going to ask the pre-qual questions right there. Say, hey, great. Before I come out, so I can be real respectful of your time, there's just a few questions I need to ask you to prepare for the meeting. And may I ask them now? And I'll get right into it, because I want to get that done. I actually, I mean, I have a very simple process. I mean, I converted my pre-qual script into a questionnaire. I fill out the information. I just take a picture of it, send it to my assistant, and then she can start putting together a lot of the stuff ahead of time. And then I'll do the CMA during my admin time, the comparative market analysis for the folks at home, and then I'll and I get that over to her, and then she has a process that I put together of how to put together the packet.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so you're asking that, and the other thing that I've been going through with people lately is like, and you know this to be true, like as a real estate agent, we're essentially selling our time, right? Now we're selling it at a high dollar per hour, which is great, provided you're working on the right things, especially when you're working with listings. But the reality is like you're selling your time and you've got a finite amount of time. If you're going on appointments that aren't pre-qualified,
Right.
they're bad appointments, or you're showing up unprepared because you didn't pre-qualify, you're potentially throwing out 2.5 to 3 hours for every single one of those that you do, between drive time, between prep time, and then actually sitting at the kitchen table in front of them. So,
Yeah.
tell me, what are you including in your pre-qual or your pre-listing packet? So I would imagine you're sending them over some information about yourself and the market, whatever. What does that look like?
So mine's if I know I'm dealing with an analytical person, I'll bulk it up and add some extra stuff. like about market, whatever's going on in the market, like you said, market stats, and I'll be prepared with some information. So I might slip an extra note card in my the hard copy of it that I bring to the appointment. But mine has, it's a CMA, comparative market analysis, a preliminary seller net sheet, and then my marketing plan combined with just some information like the home selling process. Because I mean, especially during COVID, how many first-time sellers did we work with?
Yeah.
So I put together like home selling process, bam, reasons to list with me. I last year, because of the NAR settlement, I put together a one pager just simplifying this is what it is. So I'm potentially I'm addressing that if they bother to read it, which I always check that they did. Of course, a lot of people just go to see what price you're suggesting, but for those who read it, you know, it's useful and can head off that question ahead of time, because everyone's kind of heard something about it, but
Yeah.
no one truly, most people don't really know what it is or don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say pro tip, if it's older folks, send it in paper or in writing form. If it's
Sure.
anybody 50 and below, shoot a video. So not only do they get the information, but they get to experience what you look like, what you sound like, your
Oh yeah.
mannerisms.
I started
Um,
doing that last year. That was a big deal.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so we're pre-qualifying the appointment. And let me wrap up on this. And this is going to be an unpopular opinion in today's day and age of work culture, but I think you and I kind of have the same opinion. What are you wearing to appointments? Are you just showing up like a cool guy? Are you wearing your sneakers? Do you have kind of your cool guy outfit? Or what do you look like when you show up to these appointments?
Well, I think my dress suit, whatever suit I'm wearing, is my cool guy outfit. I think it's cool to go against the grain, and yeah, most people. I mean, like, you know, you've probably walked into appointments where the agent before you was wearing khakis and you know, a short sleeve shirt, maybe with a collar. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I got this. I mean, I
Yeah,
think that anyways, but you have to have that kind of confidence, and it also comes over time with doing it enough and converting. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm dressed up because, and I mean, how many people have you probably had say, oh, you need to wear, like I had the appointment I had last Thursday, you need to wear this 3-piece suit. I'm like, well, I said to him what I feel and the reason why I do it. I want you to understand this is important to me.
yeah, yeah.
So that's why you're not dressing up for your own comfort. If we were, we'd wear sweats or shorts and you know,
Yeah.
some
Well,
Crocs.
and here's a thought exercise for all of those out there in internet land that maybe like are not as pleased with that. Danny, you list a lot of properties. What would you say the typical age range is of the homeowner that you're dealing with in today's day and age?
I mean, I've never quantified for my own seller, but statistically, the average seller is 68 years old.
Yeah, yeah,
So what are they going to appreciate more?
yeah. And what are their expectations of a professional? You know, especially dealing with a younger person like us. Are they going to want to see you like looking kind of casual, or do you think they would prefer a more button-up professional look?
I, I would say the latter. I
Right?
mean, yeah, it to me, like the same folks who are saying, and I don't care if it's unpopular. Side note, um, it, the same folks that are saying like, man, I don't want to be script. I don't want to go from scripts because I want to wing it and be me, man. I don't know why I'm making him sound like a California surfer, but like they're the same folks that are like it's like the equivalent of, yeah, I'm gonna go in my style, man, I'm gonna do it my way. It's like, well, you know, that's a great thing. You're an independent contractor, you don't have a boss telling you wear a uniform. That's great. But I just I'm doing this to be as good, to make money and provide service. And I think looking, sounding, acting, and working professionally is going to lead to a lot of success for everyone involved.
Amen. Amen. Well, it's I'm not expecting the market to adjust to who I would prefer to be. It's, hey, I'm going to adjust myself to what's going to give me the best results in the marketplace, which I think is the smarter way to think about it.
Sorry to just piggyback off that. You're a service provider. Yes, we're salespeople, and that's that's the service, is we sell their house. But like, you're also selling yourself, and it's a much easier way to do that if you're dressed like a pro and act like one.
I agree. Well, Danny, you've been very generous with your time. As like I said, it's been very fun to watch from afar your journey. What parting advice would you give anybody who's maybe they're new to the business, they're looking to ascend like you have, or maybe they're newer to the business, they've been on the struggle bus, or they're not exactly where they want to be? What parting advice would you give to those folks?
Two pieces of advice: have as many real estate conversations as you possibly can, with asking folks for their business. It's going to be 3 parts. Sorry. Work on skills, because most people aren't doing that. So if you work on skills, you're going to have a competent, confident response to any objections you have. That's the name of the game, is handling objections. And then get a coach. You and I are both in coaching, and we're not in the same program, but we found a coaching program that works for us, and our businesses have both benefited, I'm sure, exponentially from it. I can certainly say that for me, and I know you can for you too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we're not. Yeah, it's everything you do in the business is is a bet on yourself. From the act of becoming an agent to then, if you get a coach and you're paying X amount per year, the bet is, I'm going to make enough extra sales from doing this. If I listen and actually do what the coach says, I'm going to do enough to actually make a ROI, return on investment, on that.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know about you, but I look at my coaching expense each year and I'm like, I got the better end of that deal, because
oh my God, yeah,
I paid 15 grand for the year and I added another $100,000 a year to my income. I'll make that trade all day long.
Well, if you go to enough of these events that, your coaching program and my coaching program have, you meet other good agents from around the country. You network with them. You become friends with some of them, and then they know you as the guy in your specific market. And like, I mean, I just know already this year, I'm talking about GCI from making a phone call. I have like 25 grand out in referrals. And it's not like you and I are in Orlando, Florida over here. We're in Central Virginia. So like, I've got 5 referrals out where I've just made a call to somebody. Can't beat it.
Yeah. Well, that's where we'll leave it, folks. An unpaid endorsement for the Ferry family has just been made. But Daniel, appreciate your time, my friend, and hope everybody in listener land got some value from that.
Thanks, Chris.